Dearly redheaded, we are choosing consciousness today to get through this thing called grief. Interesting word, grief. It means love, which makes for a mighty good joke. But I'm here to tell you, there's nothing else. Just joy. And if the big picture tends to bring you down, go crazy once your life goes. Woo!
I'm back with Pamela Dussault-Runtagh. What should we call you? A crisis coach? An estrangement specialist? What's your favor?
Yeah, I mean, I because because estrangement is one of a few of my specialties, if you want to put it that way. I like to just say I am a personal crisis coach and consultant.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. In the last episode, we mentioned that we both watched the Oprah, I almost said opera, podcast on estrangement. And we both had a similar feeling about it. You go first.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I was very happy to, first of all, I was happy that Oprah was giving, an opportunity for people to talk about it and become more aware from both sides, from the children's sides and the parents' sides. Dr. Coleman spoke really well on that. I actually really do like Dr. Coleman. I've read his book. I've taken some of his classes and certainly, follow him. And he's the one of those that is very much like me and the kind of a middle ground person who is able to see, of course, with his experience, both sides. But he's appealing to the parents to help them understand it and, navigate the pain of that.
His book is Rules of Estrangement, his experiences with the daughter.
His personal experiences with the daughter, yeah. And so, yeah, and I think he spoke to that experience a little bit where he was, very accountable for how he kind of became overly defensive when she, had approached him with certain things that she was feeling. And it became about, him and defending himself as a father. And, we take it very personally. We want to be a good parent. And that was the thing that really caused the no contact for a bit, until he kind of came around and saw, that, well, this is what he did. And he made an effort to change it. And then, kind of, again, became more of an expert for how other parents can follow that. So, and I, it's true. I think had I not already been working with the client and you're reading up and studying on it, again, particularly with him, I don't think that I would have known how to handle the situation that happened to me personally. I can totally see myself as, as grounded as I am and as empathetic as I am when we're dealing with our children. It's really hard not to just, okay, I am in the role of the mother and my child is having a problem with me. So I'm going to get defensive about my role as a mother. What do you mean? I've been doing a good job, and on and on, right? So had I not had done all of that, I probably would have approached it that way. Instead, I was able to be
Reflect.
very grounded and again, yeah, exactly. Reflect and empathize. And I needed to sit with it for a little bit and see it from his perspective without getting into blame, self-blame or guilt. I mean, that certainly came up. There was remorse, and I needed to feel that remorse. I needed to know that, wait a minute, I wasn't listening. I thought I was, but not in the way he needed me to listen. And there was definitely a sense of guilt there and remorse. And I needed to sit with that, and I needed to be okay with that. And then accept myself and move forward with a reconciliation. And so I did. And again, I think I knock on wood, thwarted a real serious no contact. So hopefully.
Yeah, and I think life is funny like that. I agree. If I had not done 10 years of PTSD, injury work prior to facing more, I think and I think the audience knows, I when I lost my mom, I didn't expect my kids to follow, and I mean that in a way that they aligned themselves with the very people that I was working to separate from. So I didn't see that coming, but I had a heads up from the universe, and I was able to glean from all the work I had already done, all the healing work I had already done, and thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God, because I don't think it... I still made mistakes. One thing that I'd like to say, and back me up here, Coach, as best you can, because this is kind of a left field thing. Mm-hmm. But because of the nature of the abuse, this severe psychological abuse, I now had to say to my sons, all those people I have indoctrinated you to, or built, my family, my ex's family, my ex, all those people that I worked to keep in your life. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
I'm not interested in those people anymore, because I've woken up to, dissociation and what I tolerated and endured, which is a very, dare I say, common thread in a lot of these estrangements. And I brought something, my son made this public, so I don't think, and I didn't know how I was going to weave it in, but I think this is a good place for it. So in other words, I don't feel I'm doing an injustice to my son, because he did make this public. Okay. Now, he's referring to when I had my long-term dissociative episode and my CPTS rage, which you're familiar with, and the audience at this point will be too, although we're going to fast-track you. So they just learned. And this is hard, but I think important. I've spent a long time trying to come to terms with what you did and put it into the context of how I grew up, the values you instilled in me, and the decisions you made that were best for me. And while I have a lot of complex thoughts on it, the only conclusion I can draw is that I underestimated the pain and sadness you were in due to your own mind. And that broke my heart. Because nobody in the right headspace could have done what you did, isolate the people you isolated. So he says, I can't say that I miss you in the usual way. I do, however, grieve for how things were before things got complex. You were overwhelmed by your mind. I am so glad you are in a better place now, where you can worry less, work on yourself, and to some extent be yourself, even if I do not understand lots of it. And the one thing I neglected to mention is he wrote this to me after having a conversation with one of his uncles, one of my abusers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And also, I'm going to say one more thing because it just speaks to, I just think it'll help other people. While I still have plenty of thoughts on this, I find peace knowing that you are okay. I think and hope a lot of good will come from this, as I believe things tend to lead to their opposites, which is very Jungian. If you're a Carl Jungian, I couldn't believe he wrote that. This experience will teach us a lot in our ways, in our ways, yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks for letting me weave that in. I didn't know if it would come up, but yeah, you gave me a pathway. I sort of created the runway for it.
No, I think that was great. I mean, I think that there are probably a lot of parents out there who would love to have, their child write such heartfelt and meaningful, note to them about that, that really showing that they understand. So
what he does and what he doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
He's the one who asked me to get my act together. And that's when I started on the journey that led me to how massively dissociated. I didn't recognize, I didn't know. I had to be told. I still don't have the memory of what I was told, which is fine because the people who told me were put in my life to tell me. So,
yeah.
And he was the one who actually saw through my ex-husband. My son was. And then, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, pointing things out to me. So I'm quite sure he was sent. So back to Oprah. You had said to me, and I don't know if you want to talk about it, that one of the parents, you want to speak to that?
Yeah. So this is one of those things I think that is can be a slippery slope and really needs to be thought about carefully. So this parent was doing all these sort of radical, I guess you could say, TikTok videos about,
Yes.
I think she was saying, calling BS, that she was, never an abusive parent. And it's one thing to have people to talk to about your true feelings, that I think it's bullshit, basically, and et cetera, right? It's one thing to have that that group or that sounding board privately. It's another thing to sort of air it out into like all over social media, because I think that in and of itself is basically taking something that was also private to the child that maybe the child doesn't want. They don't, I think when estrangement happens, and again, I'm speaking in generalities here, that, they also many are feeling bad about having to do this thing. And it's deep and it's wounding and it's personal. And all of a sudden you see your parent all over TikTok, like almost, aggressively speaking to a general public to kind of get other parents on board with being defiant around whatever sense of responsibility could be, is really harmful. And that just really upset me to know that she was airing all of this out, not in a helpful way, in a very
self-righteous
mob, yeah, exactly, self-righteous, lynch mob kind of way.
Yeah, I may May I?
Yes.
I feel
please.
like I'm doing the same thing, but separated by intention. But
Yeah.
I sometimes am a hypocrite because my comedy will very often make me, the comedies, what's the word I use? Embellished. So it's not, the comedy's not always based in truth. Whereas when I'm just talking, I try to be as steeped in truth as possible. So I'll say it again, I'm very aware that what I'm doing could upset my boys, but I am not capable of not talking about it because of the depth of the covert and the magnitude on the generations, the magnitude of the effect it's had on multi-generations, and the fact that it, standing up to your parents is just the beginning. There's a whole host of things that happen out of that, just like when you stand up in a marriage, or just like when you stand up to any kind of abuse, it tends to be more circular. Sometimes I say it's like the infinity symbol. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I found her fine. There was another parent too. I mean, again, you and I are both pro-child, even though we're pro-self. It's kind of that place, kind of like the infinity symbol. But there was another parent whose child had become really, really angry, and she had opted to estrange. And again, I felt like whatever made that child angry wasn't not that his behavior was acceptable. That's not what I mean. But we didn't know the history of why that child was so pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I do. She had to.
That's the parent I thought was they. So I again, and we're not talking the children that are doing this because you're not paying the cell phone bills. That's not what we're talking about. There's definitely children that have been misguided and are wrong. And by the way, also very dissociated. If you talk to my sons, there's confabulation, there's cognitive dissonance, there's dissociation. There can't not be.
Right.
And people aren't talking about that either. And I'm not necessarily trying to go there, but you can't have this cycle be repeating without those undercurrent happening. And that's why I forgave my boys for how they're influencers, and I told them I would not abandon them because I didn't want them to think that I'd abandon them the way I abandoned all the others. I won't do it. And I had to forgive them because some of the ways they were influenced were very harmful to me. But I'm not going to be angry about it. I just can't be. I understand how this fucking happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also something that I think is important is when I started to apologize, and there's been a lot of apologizing, I was off the mark. I was more like apologizing for staying too long with my ex. I was apologizing for my role in tolerating the abuse versus apologizing for my reactive abuse to my ex and the things that impacted my kids. So then I went to the other, it's not an extreme, but I went the other direction and I was like, oh my gosh, they now have CPTSD and they didn't want to hear that either.
Right.
So I was like, okay. So now I just respond to whatever's brought to me as best I can. Like the letter I wrote, he wrote me, I responded back to that with one of the things I said is, because he was telling me he was forgiving me. And I said to him, I appreciate the forgiveness. I appreciate your uncle sharing his abuse, but essentially, that uncle needs to forgive himself for what he repeated. And that's really the journey, is like to self, is compassion for self, forgiving yourself for what you repeated, which eclipses being able to forgive your kids. It's
Yeah.
You want to say anything? Because I just said a lot.
No, that was all really great. And no, I honor all that you're sharing. And I agree. I think that, I just want to kind of go back and to speak to, how you mentioned that you might have seen yourself in that other mother that I was pointing out. And
I can be perceived like that.
I suppose we can all be misperceived no matter what we do. There are going to be people who just see it differently.
Right.
But you are, you're not, first of all, if you're doing it with humor, I mean, that's a whole different
fuck.
Right. I mean, think about it. I mean, every comedian is up on stage talking about all these personal things in a funny way. I think that it was just like, it was a big fuck you to her daughter. And then, kind of like creating this whole, maybe following with that same kind of, anger and masculine
energy.
It was actually yes, I agree.
The divine feminine was not weighing in.
Which is the mother.
I know. I'm just trying not to pick on her.
Yeah, I'm trying not to pick on her too.
Try not to be the asshole that, but yeah, I mean.
No, I don't judge. Okay. But
yes, we are.
Well, okay. I suppose we are a little bit, but I'm using this as an example,
right,
to other listeners that you can be angry, but you're ruining your chances of any reconciliation or possible reconciliation if you're going to bring it all out with all that anger towards your child in a very public space.
But here's what it demonstrates, and the good that it does is how fucking enraged women are. I had a rage event because of what I was tolerating, which I'm very grateful for now in retrospect, because it cleansed that male rage that I had been sitting on for decades. So hopefully this daughter of hers knows that about her mother.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and can start to make fun of it, because there's a lot. I mean, you and I'm going easy. If this wasn't a podcast and I was doing a seminar and I wouldn't have made all the references to tie it to that one person, I would be having a field day, because the rage in women is intense, and it's tied to much more than the estrangement. I
100% agree with that. That it's not just from the estrangement, that there is something deeper that's there. And that, that's a great opportunity to bring that up.
The kid, you remember go ahead. I got excited about something else. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and that's actually probably a lot of what the child has.
And if the children, the one man and his spouse, I almost said man and wife, and wouldn't forgive myself. The husband and wife, the 30-year-old who had the spouse that the family didn't accept, that then they had
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
He did a great job, but what was lacking there, and I thought, in my world, a good opportunity would have been, is that was a good place for humor. A great opportunity to start laughing at your parents for their ridiculousness. When I started to laugh at my abusers for what they were throwing down, it infuriated them, made the rage much worse, but it also gave me an opportunity to say, you're ridiculous, and I can live with you being ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's, who wants to be angry when people behave ridiculously? You want to laugh at them and just call them out.
Right.
And there wasn't a lot of humor. And again, as a plain Jane type of presentation, it was great. I don't think it addressed the extreme abuse situations, which have to be addressed, and that's my angle, covert. And I think there was a lack of humor. But other than that, Oprah talking about it does us, just speaks to the magnitude of the problem.
Right. I think that the other thing, although that other mother had estranged herself from her child, kind of touched upon that, is that there are estrangement issues with adult children who do have serious is relevant. I mean, relative, right. I suppose. Mental health issues.
Right.
And addiction issues. And I think it gets real tricky, and some of what we're talking about may not apply.
Yeah, because we don't know. And they're always, and she may not have been in a position to want to say, but I also think parents have to realize sometimes that's the outcome because of entitlement and enabling. And you can also say to a kid that you want to estrange from, this, just like the kids can look at the parents with a humor perspective, parents can look at the kids with a humor perspective and say, you know what? This isn't working. The wheels are off the bus, know, and have a stance. I'm not arguing with her stance, but recognizing that there's still two parties that created the situation. Right. I don't know. Yeah. And I know, on both sides, there's that's why it's so hard to talk about, because, we are looking at it with, waiting to, not pounce, but, there's so much more than what was presented. And that's why each of these cases, I think, are unique. There's commonalities, but they're still unique. Oh,
every case is unique. There can be, like you said, there can be commonalities, but there are so many different, personalities and thoughts and beliefs that, are tied into each individual and their family, that it's really kind of almost impossible to say here is the one right answer. So again, it's kind of walking that middle path and being able to see and understand and empathize with maybe both sides.
And I think my bias, I mean, I've been physically threatened. I've had my work threatened. I've had the care from my mother. I've been threatened for so long by aggressive males that do not have to be in check because our society does not require them to be in check. And that's also at play. So that's why I'm more critical of that situation. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I
mean, and once I stood up, you're not supposed to stand up to that type of person, but you can. It's still safer for self. Some people may not understand that and think that you're poking a bear, but we don't poke these bear.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
Nope. I agree. We do. We need to say something.
Yeah. I mean, our society can't call a psychopath a psychopath. Why not? Because everybody thinks they're married to a narcissist? I mean, that's funny. There's a motherfucking difference. But whatever. I could rant on that forever. Okay, we're actually done with episode 2. We'll take a break.
Thank you for listening and supporting Natural Born Redhead. If you follow the bouncing balls, please like and subscribe. If you know someone interested in sparing others grief and inciting joy, message me on Facebook or reach out via my website, Natural Born Redhead. J-Ma.